This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. We are continuing in Sefer Yona with the commentary of the Malbim. Of course, Yona is what we lay on Mincha on Yom Kippur as a Haftarah. And Yona is sent on a mission to Nineveh. However, as the Malbim points out, nothing specific was told to Yona that he should tell them, and therefore, in fact, if he doesn't listen to Hashem, he's not being kovesh nevuasa, he's not holding in his nevuah, because Hashem didn't tell him anything to say. He just says, ukra aleh, call out to it. So Yona figures, in the meantime, before Hashem gives me further instruction, let me get out of here, let me go to Chutz La'aretz. Somebody sent me an email, just say, it's hard to respond to all the emails, but let's say over the Kasha, he asked, so what if Yona goes to Chutz La'aretz? The halacha is that once the Navi begins to receive Nevuah in Eretz Yisrael, he could continue receiving prophecy in Chutz La'aretz. So it's really not going to help if he goes to Chutz La'aretz. And as we're going to see, the Malbim will deal with that because he specifically took a certain route to Chutz La'aretz. He took the Yam, and on the Yam, a person's mind cannot be settled. A person is swaying back and forth. Okay, I want to begin today's Shiur by revisiting a question that Rabbi Donald asked last week. Actually, you got a good compliment on your question. And the listener, who's a big Talmid Chacham, said that he agreed with my answer, although after thinking about it, I'm not sure how confident I am that it's the correct answer. The Malbim asked the following question. We don't find anywhere that Hashem sends a prophet to make Goyim do tshuva. Hashem doesn't have that relationship with the Umayis Ha'olam that the Hashgacha Pratis is such that He communicates with them only to Klal Yisrael. So why exactly is Hashem sending Yona to tell the people of Nineveh to do tshuva? By the way, let me just point out, the Yishalmi says in Sukkah, Parak Hey, Halacha Aleph, that this prophecy that Yona had, he received at a Simchas Beis HaShoeva on Sukkot. So interesting, I thought that was very interesting. This whole Nevuah, he received when he was at a Simchas Beis HaShoeva on Sukkot. Yeah, in other words, he didn't receive this Nevuah on Yom Kippur, but Chazal say, Simchas Beis HaShoeva, you draw forth the divine spirit. Well, Yona was certainly doing that. So the Malbim answered that the reason why in this case Hashem was sending a Navi to the Umayis Ha'olam is it was for the purpose of Klal Yisrael. How's that? Since Ashur was going to be the vehicle by which Hashem was going to punish Klal Yisrael, so lest Klal Yisrael have the taina or the optics of it would not be good. How could Ashur attack Klal Yisrael? They're not more worthy than Klal Yisrael. But if Hashem sends the Navi to tell them to do tshuva, and they do tshuva, now they are on the Madrega better than Klal Yisrael. They are the worthy vehicle to punish Klal Yisrael. And, in other words, they need to be worthy, the Malbim says, to attack Klal Yisrael, and also so that it doesn't look unfair to the viewer that they're more unworthy. Why are they punishing Klal Yisrael? And the Malbim says, because Yona saw that this would bring about a downfall to Klal Yisrael, therefore he figured, if I refuse to go, this would be for the benefit of the Jewish people. And the Malbim cites the Chazal. He quotes the Reish Yud Aleph. I believe that's Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel. Don Yitzchak Abarbanel. That this is what Chazal mean. Yona was concerned for the welfare of the son and not the welfare of the father, the welfare of Klal Yisrael, not the welfare of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So, Mr. Zalkin asked, since when do our tormentors have to be big tzaddikim? Right? I believe he asked that question.
Do they have to do tshuva?
Right. Since when do they have to do tshuva and have to be worthy? Or the way I look, the Goyim have tortured us throughout history, and they've been Rishayim, Mashchasim. Since when do they have to be on a higher level than we do? So at the time, we gave the following answer, and I'm not sure if it's correct, but I just want to say it over because it's a good question. It's something to think about. In other words, why all of a sudden now does Ashur have to be more worthy than the Jewish people? And the answer we said is the Malbim had pointed out that this is not Yona's first nevuah. The first nevuah we find is in Malachim Beis, Parak Yadalid, Pasuk Chafei. It's talking about Yeravam. And it says, Yeravam ben Yoash was the king of Yisrael and the Shomron, 41 years. And what kind of guy was he? Vayas harab inei Hashem. He was a bad guy. Yeah? Lo yisar mikol chatos Yeravam ben Nevat. He continued in the path of Yeravam ben Nevat, asher hechti es Yisrael, that caused Klal Yisrael to sin. But Hu heishiv es gavul Yisrael, he restored the boundary of Klal Yisrael, milavai chamas, from lavai chamas ad yom ha'arava till the arava sea. Kedvara. Now, that wasn't just something he did. That which he did was predicted beforehand by who? Kedvar Hashem Elokei Yisrael, like the word of Hashem, the God of Israel, Asher Diber Biyad Avdoi, who spoke to his servant Yona ben Amitai Hanavi, Yona ben Amitai, Asher Migas HaChefer, from Gas HaChefer. So, Yona ben Amitai was the one who anointed Yehu, and Yona ben Amitai said, you will have 4 generations on the throne.
When did he say that?
When did he say that? In other words, Yona anointed Yehu, and he said, B'nei Riveim Yashvulai. You'll have 4 generations. So what we said last week was as follows. Normally, maybe Goyim don't have to be better than the Yidden that they torment. But here, Yona said a prophecy before. That prophecy was that Klal Yisrael would restore their borders. However, it was on condition that we would be worthy. But we weren't worthy because we didn't do tshuva. So now we're losing it. But who are we going to lose it to? The Goyim. Now the Goyim have to be better than us. Why? Because since the whole prophecy regarding the Jewish people was contingent on us doing tshuva, so now that we're not doing tshuva, now we're going to lose it. But then you could ask a kasha, but the Goyim are not doing tshuva either. In other words, normally you wouldn't ask that question, but the Goyim are not doing tshuva. But here, where the success of Klal Yisrael was contingent on them doing tshuva, so if you're going to take it away from them because Klal Yisrael is not doing tshuva, then under these circumstances, maybe the Goyim have to be better than us. That's what we said last week. But I'm not clear that that's really the correct answer. I'm not clear that, how to use this? I'm not clear that that's the correct answer. Okay. Let us proceed. So Hashem tells Yona, I'm up to Pasuk Beis. We'll start again. Vayhi dvar Hashem, and it was the word of Hashem, El Yona ben Amitai Leimar, to Yona, the son of Amitai, saying, Come, get up, Lech al Ninveh, go to Ninveh, Ha'ir Agdola, the great city, Ukra Aleha, and call out to it, Ki also ra'asam lefanai, because keep it open. Ki also ra'asam lefanai, because their evil has arisen before me. Well, we're in the middle of the Malbim here on the words Ki also ra'asam lefanai, which means as follows. Again, Yona doesn't want to go because he has not violated being Kaivesh Nevuah, because Hashem didn't tell him exactly what to say. He just said, go in general. What does it mean their evil has risen before me? Ki also rasam lefanai. She'ez tar behara, when evil increases, b'mida gedusha, in an overflowing way, tale hara lefnei Hashem lekatreg, then the evil rises up before God to instigate. Va'az ba ra'asam, then their evil comes, the kitka aleim, and prosecutes them. Uve'es yechtem gzar din, then when the decree is sealed, as tered hara, then the evil descends, shehi hagzera hanechratza milmala lamata, which is the decree which has issued forth from above to below. Now at this point of time, in other words, the process is like this. You do avera after avera, the averas add up, they go up to heaven, and then when the decree is sealed, the evil comes down and offers the punishment. At this point of time, the Gzar Din had not been issued. Only the evil had come up to instigate. And Hashem sent a message to reprimand them. In other words, there's no Gezerah that they're going to be destroyed, just Hashem sent a message to reprimand them. Not to tell them about the Gzar Din. Therefore Yona felt, Hashem is not telling me to tell them there's a Gzar Din that they're going to be destroyed. There's no Gzar Din yet. It's just the evil is rising up and instigating. So I have maybe this type of mission is not begeder nevuah. Maybe this type of mission is just a good advice that I'm telling them to improve, and therefore if I don't do it, it's not included in being kodesh nevuasai. Shabazeh einoi bechlal navi hakodesh nevuasai ki lo nishlach lenevuos. He was not sent for prophecy, rak lohichiach, only to reprimand. Maybe he's only violating a mitzvah d'oraisa. In other words, Hashem told him to do something, and he didn't do it. If Hashem tells someone to do something and they don't do it, chayv misa. Otherwise, everybody who doesn't put on tzitzis would be chayv misa. It's not. It's an over naseh. So Yona felt, since the decree had not been issued yet, if he violates it, he's not violating kodesh nevuasai. He's only violating mitzvah saseh. That Hashem commanded him to rebuke. V'lachein. So let's see the next pasuk. Vayakam Yona levrayach Tarshisha. Yona gets up to run to Tarshish, milafnei Hashem, from before God. Vayired Yafai. He goes down to the port city of Yafo. Vayimsa Aniya, and he found a boat. Ba'a Sarshish, coming Sarshish. We asked, remember, it should say going to Tarshish. Vayitain Schara. He paid her fare. What do you mean her fare?
Yeah.
It's his ticket. Yona's a man. Vayired Ba, he went down on it. Lava Yimayim Tarshisha, to come with him to Tarshish, milafnei Hashem. Let us see the Heilige Malbim. Vayakam Yona levrayach Tarshisha. V'asher hisyare pen yishalacheu shenes. Because he was afraid lest Hashem send him again, v'yasem davar nevuah befiv, and place prophecy in his mouth, sheyilech b'taras navi, that he should then go as a navi, and at that point in time he won't be able to refuse, because a navi that's kodesh nevuos chayv misa shaz yem mochach laleches lachein hiktim levrach milafnei Hashem. Therefore he advanced to run away from before Hashem. Ukvar hishkif Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel. Now Abarbanel already has this outlook, sheyesh hevdel bein mipnei Hashem uvein milifnei Hashem. There's a difference between mipnei Hashem and milifnei Hashem. Shem mipnei Hashem yoimar al yediyasai v'hashgachasai. If it would say mipnei Hashem, it would mean you're trying to escape God's knowledge and hashgacha, which obviously is inescapable. There's nowhere that you could run away from Hashem's yediyah and hashgacha. Ve'ich yuchal livrach me'hashgachas Hashem. How could you run away from God's providence? Va'ana mipanav yibareach. Where from could you run? Aval lifnei Hashem. Lifnei Hashem means the connection to Hashem. Yona was running away from his devekos to Hashem. And if he doesn't have devekos to Hashem, Hashem won't speak to him. Hashem only speaks to a Navi who is davik by. Ba'al hadvekos, v'hashras hashchina, b'yoysa yoimed u'mashalech, lefnei Hashem, v'davak by. That the hashras hashchina, when you stand and walk before Hashem and cling to Him, that's why maybe it says, v'samachtam, lefnei Hashem, shivas yamim. You should rejoice before God. Before God means nizdabek LaHashem, connected to Hashem. Now, where does he want to run? He wants to run away to Chutz. Shesham ein hashchina shayra. There the Shechina does not dwell. Umisham lo yishal chayil lenavios. And from there he will not send him to say prophecy. V'hinei bachar laredes derech yam. He chose to go down to the sea. V'loy levrayach lechutz la'aretz. Not to run to Chutz la'aretz derech hamidbar. Why? V'bnei shehanevuah tachol lefamim gam b'chutz la'aretz. We know there's a halacha that a person could get nevuah in Chutz La'aretz. When is that? If you started out in Eretz Yisrael, you could continue in Chutz La'aretz. K'masha kasav, Amash Amar b'Yechezkel, Hayoi Haya Dvar Hashem Shanive b'Chutz La'aretz. Why? Why did Yechezkel get prophecy in Chutz La'aretz? The Bnei Shaniva Kfar b'Eretz Yisrael. He had already prophesied in Eretz Yisrael. Or Eliyahu b'Varchai HaMidbar. Eliyahu, when he ran to the Midbar, B'nei Zevel, Ra Maris Elikim B'Har Chayrev. He saw visions of God on Har Sinai, which is not in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, Yona says it's not enough to go to Chutz La'aretz. I gotta take a route that will disturb my connection to Hashem, where there's no Wi-Fi there. Lachein Ola Eloania. He went to the boat. Shechashav, he thought, Shabeis Yeh Ba'aniyah. And at the time he's on the boat, Lo Tachal Olav Ruach Hashem. The Spirit of God would not rest on him. Im Ibnei Sheyardei Hayam Daitam Bilti M'Siyasheves. If it's because those who go down to the sea, their mind is unsettled, Mitzar Hayam, from the pain of the sea, Ad Boyam Liyabasha, until they get to the dry land, K'mash Omer Chazal. Im Ibnei Sha'az Lo Yizboided. Or because there he cannot go into seclusion, because there are a lot of idolaters on the boat. This is all a impediment that the Shechina would not rest on him. So there were two reasons why Yona felt a boat would interrupt his nevuah. Number one, your mind is unsettled on a boat. You can't focus your mind. And number two, there would have been a lot of idolaters on the boat, and he would not be able to go into seclusion to connect with Hashem. And therefore, Vayered ba lavai imahem tarshisha. What does this mean? Sharatza lavai imahem. He wanted to go with them, bechaveirasam, with their company. Bekvar perish chazal. Now this is very interesting. Yona comes to the boat, and the boat not ready to leave. Look, the captain says, we ain't leaving until I sell all my tickets. Yona says, I'll pay for everybody. Just leave now. I'll buy out all the tickets. That's why it doesn't say Vayitain Scharoi. He didn't pay for his ticket. Schara, he paid for the boat. He paid for the boat. Look at Rashi. Rashi says Vayitain Schara. Hiktim lase schara. He advanced paying the fare. Normally the wayfarers don't pay for the boat out shasa yitzia. For who hiktim, he advanced v'le'oid elashanasan schar kula. In other words, normally you don't pay for your fare until the boat's ready to leave. Here, he paid immediately, even before it was ready to go. And number two, he paid for everyone.
So they didn't.
So the question is,
the people that were on there. Forget about the empty ones.
Right, he paid for the people on there, and he paid for the all the empty ones. But what's amazing is, a diuk the Malbim makes. Why wasn't the boat ready to leave? Why hadn't it filled up?
Because he didn't sell all the things.
Why not? Because ba'a Tarshish. Why doesn't it say headed to Tarshish? It says coming Tarshish. It should say it's headed to going to Tarshish. Holcha Tarshish. The answer is ba'a Tarshish. It had just came from Tarshish. It just came back very recently. Therefore, there wasn't even enough time for it to fill up yet. That's why he was forced to pay for everybody's fare.
It wasn't scheduled to go back in.
It wasn't scheduled. Why wasn't it? Because they just came. They just arrived. Look at the Malbim. V'zeh mevuar v'masher kasav hayimtza aniya ba'al Tarshish shayroy loymar aniya hayleches le Tarshish. It should have said the boat was going to Tarshish. Rak shaniya ba'ata mi Tarshish. The boat was coming now from Tarshish. V'derech balei ha'aniyos. It's the manner of captains, of sailors. Shaloi loshav take of b'yayim bayam. Not to return immediately the day they arrive. Rak yamdu kamayomim. They wait a couple of days. Ad yimtzu mechsas ha'anoshim oivayam b'derech hazeh. Till they find enough, the tally of people who are traveling on this road, she'imalu mischaras ha'aniyah, to fill up the boat. Umihar Yona hastened l'shalim schar kol aniyah. V'hayaloi bazeh shtei kavanais. And Yona had two intentions in paying for everyone. Number one, Im shetelech teikef, if he wanted to leave immediately. Be'im shalayim tzu'u alaniya nefashis rabbis. And another reason is Yona knew that he was potentially jeopardizing his life, and thereby the life of everyone on the boat. And therefore, better or less people on the boat, because he knew
that he knew
possibly the boat's going down. He didn't want to be put so many people's life in peril. So what happens? Vashem.
But they will call him anyway, where he can.
But still Yona had V'racham v'akol masav.
Okay.
What happened? Vashem heitel ruach gedola el hayam. God placed a great wind on the sea. Vayhi sar gadol bayam. There was a great storm again on the sea, not on the dry land, on the sea. V'ha'aniya, and the boat chishva lihishaver. Rashi says seemed like nidmis. It seemed like it was going to break. It threatened to break. It threatened to break. It considered breaking. Chishva. It thought about breaking. So says the Malbim.
The boat can change its mind.
The boat thought about breaking. Says the Malbim. Vashem heito ruach gadol alayam. Bi'er. Shaharuach hazel ohaya b'teva hayamaz. The truth is, this wind was not naturally at sea at the time. It wasn't a time for a storm. Rak Hashem etilu b'hashgacha. God placed it there with divine providence. We find Vashem. Kol makom shenemar Vashem hu u'beis dinai. Vashem usually means a special hashgacha. V'lefamim tavai hasara min hayabasha. Sometimes a storm comes from the sea. Normally, if a wind comes from the sea, so if it's coming from the east, it's going to blow the ship from the east to the west. Then the wind will be in the whole expanse of the sea. This wind did not come from the dry land. It was in the depths of the sea from the water. So the wind came from the water. Sometimes the wind comes from the depths of the water. And the wind was only around this ship. It was blowing in on this ship.
Everywhere else in the ocean, the sea
it was
calm.
Smooth sailing. It was around this ship. Right, they're passing by, there's a guy in a rowboat. He was wearing a white hat. He was wearing a white suit. The yellow flower. No, he was just rowing by. And he's passing by, he sees a big ship and it's storm-tossed. And by him, it's a pleasant Sunday afternoon. Okay. All the other ships passed in peace. There was no wind at all. And because of this, the sailors realized, this is the divine providence. This punishment is divinely ordained. What does it mean the boat threatened to break? What do you mean the boat threatened to break? Boats don't break in the heart of the sea, they drown. And they only break if they're hit against rocks on the sea coast. A ship in the heart of the sea, they never breaks. What is it going to break on?
No,
it could drown, but it doesn't break. It only breaks by the sea coast against the rocks. It only breaks if the wind throws it against the rocks on the sea coast. The men on the boat were afraid. Maybe the boat will sink in the waves and the breakers of the ocean. The Malbim has a very interesting pshat here. Ready for this? Parsha pshat, the boat threatened to break. Question is, boats don't break in the middle of the sea, they drown. The answer is the sailors figured our only eitzah is if we could somehow get this ship to the sea coast and let the wind throw it against the rocks, maybe some of us could make it to seashore. He says, this is the Abarbanel's pshat. He says, in a way that some of them will be saved, being close to the dry land. Says the Malbim, I don't like this pshat. This pshat is very forced. After this it says, the men try to row back to shore. Says the Malbim, that's not the pshat. Because we know already from Yechezkel, the east wind could break in the heart of the sea. So what we see is winds could get very powerful in the middle of the ocean, and the wind itself could cause destruction. Ki haruach yishavras hatoiren, the wind could break, what's the toiren? Maybe the mast. Umifreshei asvina, and the sails. Shehem ikarani, which are the main part of the boat, like the Gemara says in Gittin. Okay. So now, there's a supernatural storm, and the storm is only on that boat. Vayiru hamalachim, the sailors were frightened. Vayizaku ish el Elokav, and they cried out, each man to his God. Vayatilu asakelim, and they placed the vessels, ashabaniya, on the boat, elayam, into the sea. Basically, they threw over all the suitcases to make the boat lighter. Lahakel me'aleim. And Rabbi said, where's Yona? Farshlufen. Yona is sleeping on the bottom of the boat in his cabin. He's sound asleep. For Yona yarad. Yona went down el yarkasei hasvina to the belly, to the
stateroom,
to the cabin of the ship. Vayishkav, he went to sleep. Vayishkav, he lay down. Vayiradam, and he fell into a deep sleep. By the way, Rashi says they cried out, Ish al Elokav. You had a representative of all 70 nations on that ship. It was like a UN conference on that ship. You had a member of all the 70 nations. Let's see the Malbim. Vayiru hamalachim, and the sailors were frightened. Va'al yedei yirasam, because of their fear, Zo'aku ish al Elokav, each man cried out to his God. B'sheheminu, when they believed shehazaf hazeh, that this anger ba'al yedei ketzef Eloheim, came through the anger of their gods. So, besides taking spiritual measures, they also took practical measures. V'gam also tachbulis anushiyos, they also used earthly, practical techniques, and that's what? They made the ship lighter, so that the boat would be lighter, and rise to the surface of the water. But what did Yona have in mind? What's he going to sleep for? Why is Yona going to sleep? Isn't that unusual? Here, they're in sakanas nefashos. Their lives are all in danger. Maybe they're about to die. And Yona goes to sleep?
Maybe he went to sleep before the storm started. And he didn't recognize the storm.
But it says he went to sleep, right? After already the storm came. Amnam Yona yarad el yarkasei hasvina vayiradam. V'haya kavanasai. His kavana was v'asher yarei shebe'ez titba hasvina. He was afraid that when the ship drowns, v'yibo techayam, Yeshev Shor Sheyitzava Hashem, God has the ability to command Legale Ayam to the waves, Sheyatridu Migala Agal, to throw him from one wave to the next, Ad Sheyishcha Yabasha, till he's thrown to the dry land. Yona didn't want to die, didn't want to get thrown overboard. Because he figured God will take care of him. God will have one wave throw him to the next until they eject him back to Eretz Yisrael, and then he would have to go speak prophecy to Nineveh. Like such a thing happened to Rabbi Akiva. Kamasad Rabbi Akiva Bivamas. And therefore, Yona said the only sure death is to go to the belly of the ship. L'chein yorad el yarkasei asfina. Now, interesting, Rabbi Sai. Sfina? What's a sfina? Never in this whole Sefer did it mention the name Sfina before. What did it call it?
Oniya.
Vayimtza Aniya. Hashem vayisagadav vayam ha'aniya. What's the Sfina? It says the Malbim sheyesh hebdel bein Sfina uvein Aniya. There's a difference between a Sfina and an Aniya. Shesfina nikra hachelik min Aniya shu safon. A Sfina is the part of the ship which is hidden. Sfina, lashon of safon, hidden.
What's hidden? What's in the water?
Under the water. U'mechusa lamala, it's covered above. Fu ha'cheder ha'tachton sheba'aniya. It's the lower part of the boat that you can't fall off it into the water because you're under the water. Shemisham lo yipol hayam rak yavoyu me'amayim hayam alav. The water could come into the room, v'yid b'Hashem, and drown there. Says the Malbim, this has halachic ramifications. There's a famous tshuva in the Mabit. Women whose husbands drowned in their cabin, there's a halacha like this. If a man goes overseas
And he doesn't.
and nobody knows what happened to the boat never comes back. If you can't see, if it's mayim she'en lahem soif, if it's endless water, she can't get married.
You have to consider
Because
that
maybe
it's
he
not
ended up on the other side.
Right.
But if it's mayim she'esh lahem soif, if there's dry land on the other side and the boat didn't show up, then he's obviously dead.
The cheskes.
But even when it's mayim she'en lahem soif, but if the guy was in the cabin and he didn't show up,
then you
could
consider
assume
him
he's
also.
dead. He's good as dead.
Because the water
Why?
came in.
There's nowhere to fall out of the boat from the cabin. Like the Mabit, Mater is amazing. He see from the greatness of the Malbim. He uses, the halacha l'maisa to say pshat in the pasuk. As hanoshim shenitbu baleim b'cheder asfina, women who their husbands drowned in the room of the boat, shein loy din mayim shein lahem soif l'daitoi. His opinion is it doesn't have a din of mayim shein lahem soif. B'ashamei ayam ba'am alacheder, because the water comes into the room. V'gam hoyoloi oy tam bazeh. Yona had another reason to go to the cabin. Sheba'ashar yada, since he knew shahasar hazeh hu b'shviloi. Yona knew like this. This storm, who's God punishing? Pete? The Galach? No. But Muhammad? God has no beef with them. It's him! Yona says, for me, then as soon as I die, the storm will stop. So the quickest place I could die is deep down. The ones that die first are on the lowest rung of the ship. So if I go down there and I die, the storm will stop and everyone else will live. V'shem yamas hu tchila. If he dies first, gives a kasar.
That doesn't work unless the ship is broken, the water comes into his room.
Right.
If he's in his room, the ship's not broken, he's safe.
If the water comes into his room, he's dead, no?
Yeah, but the only way the water can come into his room if the hull is breached. Otherwise, how's the water going to get in there?
But God doesn't want to kill the other people, so once he goes,
Like a little hole in the wall.
we'll figure out a way. V'yinatzla anshe aniyah, they'll be saved. So Yarad el Yarkasei Asfina goes down to the bottom of the boat. Shesham yichnesu amayim tchila. There the water will enter first, v'yachnakuhu, and choke him. V'az yinatzlu anshe Asfina, then the men of the boat will be saved. Shehem oimdim lamala, they are standing above. So the captain calls out to him, and he says, what are you sleeping? By the way, according to the Glatstein Gaon, Sefer Yona is a mashal.
Is a what?
A mashal.
A mashal.
The boat is the body. The neshama, Yona is the neshama. We come down in this world and we completely forget what our purpose is in this world. What do? We go to sleep. And Hashem has to call out to us, wake up! Are you breathing in there? Do you realize what this world is all about? Malacha nirdam. Come, get up, kra el Elokecha, call out to your God. Ulai, maybe. Yisashes Elokim lanu. Yisashes is a language of thinking. Bayoim hahu avdu No, we say it every day. B'yayim avdu eshtainoisav. All your plans and thoughts will be lost. Maybe God will reconsider. We won't be destroyed. So says Amalgam, the captain, who that's the captain of the ship, Asher of the Kol Tikva, Meitai. Once all hope was lost, to be saved naturally. And he thought, this storm, Hamashuna, which was unusual, which was only on this ship, was obviously decreed specifically on Dafka, the people on the ship. And they already all called out to their God. So he figured it's not them. Yitzuyar, he thought possibly, but once one of them was sleeping and he not calling out to their God. Maybe the Gzera is on him. Now everyone's going to have to drown because of this far shluffin' lazy bum. Therefore, Amar Kumkra Elalekecha, go call out to your God. Ula Yisashis Perish Yishtanu Machshavoisav. He'll change his thoughts on Machshava Acheres with a different mindset. V'yavatel HaGzera, and he'll be Mavatel the Gzera Shaloi Noived, that we don't all go lost. The Mertz Hashem, next week we will continue Sefer Yona. Shkaya.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.